Christian Horner's departure from Red Bull Racing represented much more than a simple change of leadership in Formula One. It symbolized the end of an era that spanned more than 15 years, characterized by memorable victories, but also by controversies that weakened the internal foundations of the Milton Keynes team. Today, Laurent Mekies occupies the position of CEO of Red Bull Racing without knowing the real factors that led to his predecessor's dismissal. Does this lack of clarity hide issues that are much more complex than we think? To understand the importance of this transformation, we must go back to the beginning of 2025. Christian Horner was not only the leader of Red Bull, he essentially personified the spirit of the organization since its inception. During his tenure, the team achieved remarkable triumphs and established itself as one of the leading forces in Formula One. Max Verstappen, the current four-time world champion, matured and evolved under Horner's guidance, forming an alliance that appeared to be unshakable. However, over the past 18 months, cracks began to appear in this seemingly solid foundation. The first signs of turmoil emerged with allegations of misconduct made by a member of the team against Horner. Although he was cleared on 2 occasions by Red Bull's internal investigations, the damage had already been done. The reputation for solidity and seriousness that Horner had built up over the years began to crumble. As if that were not enough, key figures in the team began to leave the organization. Adrian Newey, the brilliant designer responsible for Red Bull's dominant cars, opted to leave. Jonathan Wheatley, a highly trusted strategist, also prepared his departure. Rob Marshall, another prominent name in engineering, made the same decision. Coincidence? Unlikely. The loss of talented professionals did not stop there. Other significant names in engineering and strategy began to question the organizational climate in Milton Keynes. Speculation about internal instability spread throughout the paddock, creating an atmosphere of doubt that certainly influenced the team's morale. In a sport where safety and harmony are essential for success, these departures had a devastating impact on the structure that Horner had established over the years. However, what truly determined Horner's future was the team's performance in the races. Red Bull, which a few years ago controlled the circuits with almost total dominance, began to show alarming signs of deterioration. In the current 2025 season, the team is only 4th in the Constructors' Championship, an embarrassing position for those accustomed to fighting for titles. McLaren has taken the lead, while Ferrari, now with Lewis Hamilton on its roster, and Mercedes are ahead of Red Bull in the standings. For a team accustomed to triumph, this circumstance must have been intolerable for the Austrian leaders. The contrast becomes even more evident when we draw parallels with Red Bull's glorious period. Between 2021 and 2023, the team seemed invincible. Verstappen collected consecutive world titles, and Red Bull cars dominated so convincingly that they were criticized for making the races predictable. How could an institution that achieved such excellence regress so suddenly? The explanation may lie precisely in the administrative instability that took hold behind the scenes. Then, in the days following the British Grand Prix, the revelation came. Christian Horner was suddenly dismissed, and Laurent Mekies, who ran Racing Bulls, was promoted to take over as CEO of Red Bull Racing. But here we find the most fascinating aspect of this whole story. Mekies publicly admitted that he never received any information about the real reasons for Horner's dismissal. In his statements, when asked if Red Bull had clarified the reason for the decision, he was blunt. The objective answer is no, they haven't clarified it. How is it conceivable that such a radical change could have taken place without the new manager knowing the reasons behind it? This lack of transparency raises very serious questions about how Red Bull is managing this change. Are the real reasons so serious that even Mekies cannot know them? Or is there a bigger strategy behind this apparent lack of internal communication? Mekies revealed that, rather than providing clarification about the past, Red Bull limited itself to presenting the team's future goals. According to him, the current priority is to ensure proper direction and prevent obstacles at all levels of the corporation. These statements sound more like a business guide than a convincing justification for a change of such magnitude. When asked about the permanent nature of his appointment, Mekies was evasive, acknowledging that he cannot guarantee his indefinite tenure, just like any other team leader in Formula One. This situation paints a worrying picture for Red Bull Racing. How can a team rebuild and return to the top when its new leader does not have a complete understanding of the problems that caused the decline? How can Mekies implement effective changes if he does not understand exactly what went wrong in the past? More importantly, does this lack of transparency not actually indicate that Red Bull's internal problems are much more serious than they appear? The pressure on Mekies is extraordinary. He needs to reverse a situation that has deteriorated over more than a year, restore the confidence of the drivers, regain the respect of the employees who have remained with the team, and do all this without full access to information that could be critical to the process. It's like trying to repair an engine without knowing exactly which component is damaged. Time is working against Red Bull Racing. With 10 races remaining in the 2025 season, the team needs to show signs of improvement quickly. The 42-point gap to Mercedes may seem manageable, but the 66-point deficit to Ferrari represents a much bigger hurdle. And with McLaren isolated at the top, the battle for second place in the championship has become the most realistic goal for Red Bull at this point. Max Verstappen, as a four-time world champion, is certainly not happy with his team's current situation. Accustomed to competing for victories and titles, the Dutch driver now finds himself in an uncomfortable position, having to accept modest results while his rivals celebrate at the top of the podium. The question is, how long will Verstappen put up with this situation? And if he decides that his future lies elsewhere, what would be the fate of Red Bull Racing? The situation becomes even more sensitive when we consider Verstappen's history of loyalty to Red Bull. It was this team that believed in his potential when he was just a young talent, and it was under Horner's leadership that he became a four-time world champion. But every driver's tolerance has its limits, especially when it comes to someone at the peak of their career. If Red Bull fails to deliver a competitive car in the coming seasons, it would not be surprising to see Verstappen looking into other options on the market. Christian Horner's departure marks the end of a golden era for Red Bull Racing, but it could also symbolize the beginning of an even more challenging period. Laurent Mekies inherited a team in crisis, demoralized employees, a car that cannot compete at the highest level. And on top of that, he was kept in the dark about the real reasons that led to this situation. If Mekies manages to turn this situation around and restore Red Bull to the top of Formula One, he will be remembered as the man who rescued one of the most important teams in the category. But if he fails, we may be witnessing the definitive decline of a powerhouse that once ruled this sport. What do you think? Will Red Bull Racing be able to recover from this crisis, or are the internal problems too deep for a quick fix? Leave your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow all the behind-the-scenes action of Formula One that you won't see anywhere else.